Hey, welcome back to my channel, IndieAuthor Jill, and today we got a banger. So today we're looking at Black and Blue Widow by, I hope I'm not pronouncing this wrong, but Rhiannon Rollness, and um, there's a lot to say about this, but not a lot that I can say without giving spoilers. There's okay, so first and foremost, it's kind of set in like a uh Roman mythology based empire. Um, it's the way I would describe it, and this is just my personal what I would describe it as is it is a um epic romantic journey disguised as a revenge story is how I would probably describe it best. Um So it, like I said, it's kind of a Roman mythology inspired world. There's temples devoted to the Roman gods. There are two suns in the sky, Romulus and Remus. Um, and there's one part, oh gosh, where is it? Yes, it's in the chapter Deny Me. Um, is it maybe? Oh no, it's in God's will, maybe? Yeah, yeah. Uh, so she says, the city isn't asleep, of course. Only the king, Romulus, has set. The traitor Remus casts rare single shadows long and low through the cobblestone streets. Uh, so Remus, the sun Remus, sets before the Romulus sun, which I thought was, when I first read it, I thought was very poetic, given the mythology of Romulus and Remus. How Remus the traitor killed his brother, and but um there is a um note from the author with trigger warnings. Uh, not something that I was not something that I would recommend to kids, obviously. And probably not even teenagers. Definitely adult content. But I like where she says, as a dark fantasy romance about a serial killer, this book contains adult themes and issues. It is intended for adult audiences only. This book contains, and it goes down the list of different things: self harm with a suicidal intent, various of and pervasive depictions of violence against women, allusions to sexual assault of a minor, not on page, um, and different things like that. And I'm not going to read all of them because some people are like, I don't like the trigger warnings because I feel like it gives too much away. And if that's you, fine, great. I'm not going to give the whole list, like I said, but I do like the very last. I think it's the last note. No, there's the last note on this first page. There's more on the other side. Um, but one of them is murder. A lot of it. Considering how the book is framed, Luella Amelis identifies and marries the worst men in the Republic. Then she murders them on their wedding night. Yeah, there's gonna be murder in here, obviously. um, I love this kind of synopsis on the back because it gives you just enough to pull you in without spoiling anything or giving anything away. Um, When the Emperor's brother Cassius discovers her next target, he doesn't turn her in, he proposes. As their wedding approaches, Luella must decide, is he her partner or her prey? Then there's a space, and it says Rose Octavius needs a husband. Desperate to escape her father's plans to sell her to the cruelest brothel in the city and find a way to protect her sister, Rose accepts a proposal. As her nuptials loom, she realizes safety is more relative than she thought, and marriage doesn't guarantee anything. As each woman navigates an empire that would keep them obedient, must determine whom to trust with their love and their lives. And like I said, I think it's a great. Um, it it tells you what to expect in the story as you're going along, and you do go through these two different POVs, Luella and Rose. Um, and it seems disconnected at first, but as you get along, you start thinking, like, at the point um when Rose meets Augustus for the first time, I was just like, okay, he seems nice, I think I like the guy. Um and it goes on, and you don't really start putting things together. I would say it was when Tristan rescued her from one guy. He like just gives Tristan is Augustus's brother, um, the older brother. And when she is nearly kidnapped, Tristan rescues her, and rather than fighting, he just pays the guy, and he's like, "Here's some gold. Go away." And the guy takes two gold coins and goes away. And Rose is like, "That was a lot of money." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the one with the fortune." And then um, with that going on, you start to kind of think, okay, like, who in this world has a fortune? And it would be highly political figures, royalty, maybe emperors, princes. Um, she um, there's a praetor that she's kind of going after, and he's a high official. There are wealthy families. Uh, Tristan and Tristan is from a wealthy family, and you find that out um, when he offers to marry Rose and make sure that she's not sold to a cruel brothel. That he can afford to forego a dowry rather than, well, you're it could, because in this world, the girls are expected to have a dowry. um, and when people know the Octavius name, and so if they ask her name and they find out that she's not, that she's an Octavius, they realize, oh, so no dowry. Gonna have to pass, you know. But Tristan, like I said, he comes from a wealthy family. And she even tells her father when he makes the offer. Um, let's see. it, Battlefield is where I start kind of piecing some things together. Um, Let's see, where is it? I will find it, um, but he, oh, here it is. His father asks, um, who is he? And she says his name is Tristan, and he says, and what does he do? And she says, he's the son of Tiberius. Everyone knows what it means to be the son of Tiberius, anyways. I don't use titles because to patter that would be boastful, which is unbecoming of a woman, and everyone knows what it means to be the son of of Tiberius anyway. And so, it, if you're the son of Tiberius is a name, obviously, that has power if everybody knows what it means to be the son of Tiberius. And so you're like, okay, yeah, he is, like, he's not just, when he says, I'm the one with the fortune, he's not, you know, splitting hairs about it. Like, it is a fortune. If everybody knows your father's name, then there's a good chance that you have a massive fortune. And he has a title, so he is probably someone of that is either royal or tied to royalty in some manner, in a way that matters to people who have an appearance, who are concerned with appearances and concerned with that kind of legacy type building situation. And so, um, then you move to Luella. She is there is a festival that happens, and there it's basically I believe it's a festival for women to um young women. It's a more of a courting festival, so the young available women of marrying age can go out, and they do the maidens dance, and then they do the couples dance, where men might, possible suitors might find women that they want to get to know better and potentially marry and partner up with, and dance with them. And this is kind of a matchmaking ceremony. And there are people of all ages. Children are there enjoying the festivities. The older women who are already married, some of them are widows, and older, uh, you know, women, and everybody's just having a good time. There's dancing and there's music and there's vendors and there's drinks, and everybody's having a great time. But they used to go. Rose and her sister Daisy used to go all the time with their mother, and their mother died, leaving their father to raise them alone. And he turned his grief inwards and uh, dealt with the grief in a very bad way, mostly by drinking, and that drinking turned him mean, and he started abusing his daughters, mostly just, smacking them around and calling them whores. And um, so with Rose, she's getting ready to turn 18. Once you're 18, like, you're old enough to marry once you turn 16. But once you're 18, or once you're 20, you become a little less, become kind of less desirable, because you're in this age period, it's deemed that you're getting beyond your childbearing years, which we know is not necessarily true, but men want younger wives. Um, and by 20, you should already be married and having kids in this world. So she's desperate to find a husband, because if she doesn't find a husband by her, I believe it's her 21st birthday, that 20th birthday or 21st birthday, that her father is threatening to sell her to the cruel brothel, the Sabines. And so she goes, she was out just kind of hanging out with Daisy, because really the only place they're safe is anywhere but home. A home is where they're in the most, where they are most in danger, because that's where their father lives is. So if they're not at home, if they're out in the market and hanging out with their friends and everything, they can at least pretend to be happy. um Rose takes a lot of the punishment. Even when Daisy makes the mistakes, Rose is the one that steps up and says it was her that made the mistake, so that she takes the abuse and therefore protects Daisy. And she has bruises all up and down her arms, so she wears long sleeve shirts and dresses and whatnot, um, to hide the bruises. And she's sitting on the steps, watching her sister talk and flirt with, or talk and hang out with her friends. And this redheaded guy sits down next to her and starts talking to her. And he tells her that his name is Augustus, but he also goes by Blockhead. Um, and she's like, Blockhead? You'd rather go by Blockhead? And he says, well, that's what everybody else call, what's my friends and family call me. And he says, you got to admit, it is kind of block shaped, right? And he does self-depreciating humor very well. He's very charming. I liked him immediately. And then his brother comes up and he's like, "Dude, come on, we gotta go." And so as they're walking away, he keeps looking back over his shoulder at Rose and waving at her like, "Bye, I'll see you later." Are you looking? Are you watching me go? Are you watching me? She's watching me. She's still watching me. He's cute. He's charming. The way he acts for, and then uh even when he even as he gets older throughout the story, because the story does span a 10-year gap, um and it does it so seamlessly you don't even realize 10 years have passed until you get closer towards the end and you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I all right, um but he doesn't lose his boyish charms, but he is matures in a way that is just, it's one of those, when you see a charming boy, a young man, and he's in his 20s and he's charming and he's goofy and he's silly, but he can be serious at the right times. And you see the way when he is in his 20s where he is uh controlling when his emotions get a little bit more volatile, and but he is in control, uh sometimes barely, but in control, like, um to where most people passing by are not going to notice that there's anything out of the ordinary. But like when he gets mad at his brother, and Rose is standing next to it, between the two of them, and she's looking over at Augustus, she can see that he is upset and that he's mad. Tristan can see that he's mad, but it's because for Tristan, they're brothers. He knows his tells. With Rose, she's learning his tells. Um, as he's getting closer and closer to being her brother-in-law, he's learning the tells. She's learning the tells of her brother-in-law, and then you have Luella, and Luella is an enigma all of her in and of herself. She is an interesting character. Both her and Augustus. I like her and Augustus because they're complex characters who have strong motivations, and they have what I would say is very noble reasons. And it's a kind of a case of doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. But I one of the things I was confused about was the statue on the front because I was trying to figure out, like, I get that it's an empire and everything, and the emperor and whatnot, but I was trying to figure out what this, where the statue came into place. Um, Two things. Like I said, it is Roman mythology based, so there are a lot of temples to the different Roman gods and goddesses, including statues. And there's the Senate, and most of the statues in there are of gods. Um, but there is one goddess. Um, there's Janice, which Luella is a faithful patron to. Um, but I think it's at the dance thing. Yeah, she says she's almost 20. Okay, so she's 19 going on 20. Um, Tisiphone, Tisiphone. I think I'm saying that right. Tisiphone, there's a goddess called Tisiphone, and She she overhears some women saying, "I hope she kills them all." The woman adds, voice guttural. I couldn't agree more. Uh, and well, she's overhearing this conversation here. Let me just um yeah. At the refreshment table, two women are leaning in close, talking over the pasca. I know they mean to be ignored because no one drinks the vinegary beverage except for those who can't afford uncut wine or the sweetened version, sapa, and both carafes are still full. I don't look at them as I fill my cup anyways, always interested in gossip I can share with Mia. Mia is her healer. I heard he was found dead, a young brunette says. I take a sip of the drink, the sharp tang causing my cheeks to tighten. Just like the senator last quad, the older of the two whispers, her black hair framing her dark eyes. It's Tisiphone, seeking vengeance. The younger one's voice trembles, but with fear or excitement I can't tell. She sees their crimes. Senator Silas, he took a fancy to my niece a few summers ago. My chest tightens. I hate that I was too late for anyone, that it takes me so long to find them all. I thought she was just a girl. She's 11 summers now, the first woman answers. I don't need to hear more. I know Silas's past. That's why he was chosen. But how many were noticing what type of men are dying? I need to be careful. If they're noticing, the men might actually notice too. How will they act if they feel targeted? If they realize it's a woman posing as a wife or a sister or matter? I'm not foolish enough to think it can't get worse. It can always get worse. I don't want innocent women to pay for my crimes. I hope she kills them all, the woman adds, voice guttural. I couldn't agree more. Tisiphone should be cutting the head off the snake, the older woman says, invoking a fury of revenge. Tisiphone, the one who meets out retributive justice. My favorite, obviously. I should walk away, but instead I say, snakes like to live in holes. Sometimes you have to wait for them to emerge. The older woman gasps. Oh, we were just. She begins, but something in my face must give her pause. Tisiphone, she breathes. And some of the people who do recognize her, that's what they call her, is Tisiphone, because she doesn't really have a name and they don't know if she's using her real name. And Luella never uses her real name. Uh, the other thing about this is there is magic involved in this world, which is I love a tip. Just the cherry on top, really. So Mia has healing powers. She makes potions and she uses herbs and different. um, roots and whatnot to make her poisons and make her antidotes. But she also has this healing power with these stones that she can give you the stones to heal you. And Luella's got a different power. She goes to the god Janus, even though Tisiphone is her favorite goddess. She honors Janus, the goddess, because Janus gives her shape shifting powers. She is able to change her body and her face, her hair, the color of her eyes, the whatever. There is one detail that she keeps, um, and it's how um, there are a few people that know her really well. They know her because of a small detail in her eyes. And this is one of those things where I kind of get annoyed with authors describing a person's eyes because it's always like hazel with flecks of gold or green with flecks of gold or something like that. There's always a fleck of something, usually gold. But with this, it actually matters. Anybody else like for any other book, I would say it's okay for them to just have blue eyes or green eyes or hazel eyes or brown. It doesn't have to be, you know, the love interest does not have to be paying that close attention to their eyes that they're like, oh, they're blue with flecks of green or whatever. They're blue. Let them be blue. It's fine. But in this case, it actually matters, and I love that so much because um one detail, and she could change it if she wanted to, but she doesn't. And it's such a detail that's hard to miss, that's easy to miss for the men that she is targeting because they're not interested in looking in a woman's eyes. They're interested in controlling a woman. I found a woman. She will be my wife. She will obey me. She will be exactly what I need for my political presence or whatever. And then he never wakes up from his wedding night. And it never dawned on him to look her in the eye, like really look her in the eye. And when he is looking in her eye, he's not looking for anything. He's not being devoted. He's not being romantic. He's looking for fear or subservience. But she has these two little flecks in her eye, a red one and a yellow one. And they're both in one eye. And it's how the people who really love and see Luella notice her. They recognize her by these little flecks. They actually look her in the eye. And it's such a poetic way of establishing that connection with between Luella and other characters because when they're looking in her eyes, they are looking for their person, for their sister, for their friend, for their lover, for the person they know and love in this body, regardless of what this body looks like. And so it's a wonderful allegory of they see her. They really see her. At one point, one person who is they spend 62 days in a row praying for Luella. And one of the things that they say is that really shows how much they see and notice and recognize who she is and what she's done, and that like they really see her is they say, she has bled for us. I can bleed for her. And which makes a lot of sense when you realize that like they're in a temple, they're praying, and most of the gods require a blood sacrifice. Um, and most of these are paid with like typically a goat. Um, as a matter of fact, one of um, the women, I won't say which because I'm not spoiling anything, um, she's very much injured, and she ends up making her way to a temple. And at the time, she didn't realize what temple she was in, but she realizes, she sits down and she just kind of sits down to rest. And when she realizes that there is blood pooling around her, she feels kind of sacrificial herself. And she kind of chuckles because goats are used as the sacrificial animal. And she looks up at the statue of the god or goddess, because she's not really sure if it's a god or a goddess at the time, because she doesn't know uh, this particular god or goddess at the time, at the moment that she is there. But she kind of chuckles and says, "Do you like goats?" you know, because she feels like, well, I'm in a temple, I should offer a sacrifice. I don't have a sacrifice. Well, I mean, I could be a sacrifice, I guess, sort of. I mean, I'm certainly bleeding. You take blood for offerings, right? Does it have to be a goat? But can I be a goat? Just like maybe not Chloe did, you know? Um, but yeah, it it was such a I won't say that it was a fun ride necessarily, but it was so satisfying. Especially as Luella is going through the paces and different things. Um and she says, "I'm doing this for the women and the children and that are abused." And at one point she is escaping from her last murder, and as she is getting ready to run away, she grabs what she says her baggage, um, and she points out that when people see her running, people don't, like, they see her and then they turn away. And she says, of course they turn away. Nobody notices a woman or a child running through the streets. Nobody looks at the broken bodies. Nobody notices the uh, broken and the abused. So if a woman, a battered woman goes running through the streets, everybody pretends not to notice. If a child goes missing, everybody uh, doesn't. Nobody notices children going missing. Nobody notices a woman, an abused. They don't notice an orphan going missing. They don't notice um, a battered woman running through the streets. And when she makes it back to her home, Mia comes and she's complaining that she doesn't have an apprentice, and she's like, "Hang on," and she goes, "Boy," and you find out that she not only is running around killing bad men, but she's also kidnapping orphans, because nobody notices that an orphan goes missing. If the bad people can kidnap an orphan and get away with it, why can't a good person kidnap an orphan and get away with it? You know? And she's not wrong. Nobody notices he went missing. Nobody cares. Nobody comes looking for him. But she doesn't care because he's safe. You know, um, and like I said, I really like Luella. I love how you start to see you starting to put the pieces together to how she got to where she was. And then when you see the connection between her and Rose and how their stories intertwine with one another, because she points out that people like Rose, she's this is what she's doing it for. She's doing it for women like Rose, women like Daisy, who mothers have died and they've been left to the vicious cycle of their fathers, to the vicious abuse of their husbands, to the women who learn that the only thing a woman can be is a wife, a whore, or a corpse. And someone makes the obvious statement that there is a fourth option, and it's with these women. that if they had to choose, what they would really love to be in this world is a widow. They're not controlled by a man. Their fathers can no longer control their destiny. Their husbands can no longer control their actions, and it's the only way, aside from dying, that they can truly be free. Um, and I mean, obviously, those of us who have found a relationship where we love the relationships we're in, that can be kind of sad. But for those of us who have been in relationships where we may or may not have already picked out what shirt our husbands would wear in their to their funeral, and that is, of course, if we wanted to spend the extra money on a casket and rather than just have them cremated and dump them in the backyard, depending on what kind of an impression you're giving. Um, you know, so um, yeah. uh, I will say that the only good thing that came out of my past relationship is that it made me see how good the relationship I'm currently in is. I value it more because of the past relationship. So bad relationships don't have to be all bad. They have their purpose. Um, be better if they just didn't happen at all, but it is what it is. We live, we learn, we move on. Uh, as usual, I will be leaving a link for this book in the description. Definitely go get it. I kind of hate that it ended. It ended so satisfyingly. I loved this. It was a great ending. I love the ending so much. However, I would not be mad if this became a series, honestly. So, like I said, I will link it in below. My address for where you can send things like your own book if it's self-published or indie published. Uh, you can send books to me. This is one I bought, and gladly so. I hate that it took me so long to get to it, but I did finally get to it. Um, if you have read the book, tell me who your favorite character is. Mine is Tristan. Mine is Cassius, not Tristan. Tristan got better than what he deserved in this book, honestly, if you ask me. But Cassius is my favorite character. It should be Luella. It's not. Luella just kind of she steals the show in a way that not demand like she's the kind of woman that walks into the story and just steals the entire story. You know she has arrived. But Cassius is complex. He is um properly motivated. Also, I love this. This is a very, very cool detail in this. Okay, so anytime you get to, I'm not gonna use that one because that. Okay, here's one for Luella. You get to Luella's chapter, and see up here you get all these cobwebs, this dark and desolate type of motif. Um, but then you get Rose, and it's all beautiful rose petals and spring, and it's a very different feel, and it definitely captures the feeling of the people because with Rose, she is young, she is hopeful, she has her whole future ahead of her, she's getting married, she has this idea of what kind of a wife she's going to be and what married life looks like for her. With Luella, those she used to have those same ambitions like most women in her time period. She had the same thought of, you get married, you find a good husband, you marry for love, and you find a you become a wife and a mother, and you uh raise these beautiful children. Uh, but she's been disenchanted of that, and so there's cobwebs. There's a desolation in her heart to where she can't see the beauty anymore. She can't be hopeful anymore. She can only see the pain and the agony and the injustice, and she seeks to be that justice. Um, so yeah, I love the way the artwork depicts the two different women. Um, and then oh, and then you get to this where the two stories kind of start to um intermingle. You get to this point where you have the rose thorns and the spider where they start to connect. Um, where that story really comes together, um, which I love. But again, I am going to, like I said, leave a link in the description. You'll also find a link to my middle grade fantasy, The World of Eudosia, The Magic Door, and my address where if you want to send me a book, you can. You don't have to, um, but it's there. Leave me a comment on who you think, if you've read the book, tell me who your favorite character is. If you just want to let me know you were here, uh, leave a rose emoji. All right. I will see you guys next time. Bye.